This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Riker washes some feet.
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show that just goes to prove I cannot do an Irish accent, and I'm not going to try. My name is Gep, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Izix.
Hi.
And this week we have the comedy episode that deals with abortion rights.
Yeah. It's there's a lot going on here, but also a lot that's like head scratching at the same time.
Yeah, it's a very weird one.
Mm-hmm.
It's Up the Long Ladder, which I think is just a DNA reference or something.
Yes. Yeah. I would assume so.
Which has very, very little to do with the bulk of the episode, because the bulk of the episode is a Irish immigrant fair.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like a Ren fair, but if everyone was an Irish stereotype.
Yes, from I guess a 1700s, 1800s sort of era. We're going to be drinking a lot. We're going to be loud and boisterous. The women are going to be, stern and strict, and there's going to be animals and straw just everywhere. And yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's not pinned down particularly. I guess I'd say they're probably going for sort of like a, late 1800s vibe, maybe early 1900s, something in that era.
Yeah, it's something recognizable, but still old-timey.
So this confusing muddle of a program was written by Milena Snodgrass, who was working as a story editor for seasons 2 and 3, so we're going to be seeing her pop up a bit. Previously wrote Measure of a Man and Pen Pals.
Yeah, so a fantastic episode and an all right episode where they actually did some thinking about some of the stuffs at play. And then this one.
Yeah, this thing.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. We've got several guest stars. I'm not going into everyone. There's so many people, but
Let's keep the major ones.
So we have Barry Ingram, who's playing Danny O'Daly.
Odell,
there we go. That's right. Danilo Odell. I can't tell if I got something right. I hate reading these names.
I think it's supposed to be effectively pronounced Danny, but it's old timey Irish, so you got to do the whole
Danny
localized spelling.
Yeah, whatever it is. Anyway, he was an English actor. That's a good start right there.
Yep.
Appeared in many TV shows and movies in England and America. Was in a multitude of stage shows. Things that we might have heard of as he was a character in Doctor Who and the Daleks. Mm-hmm. He was the voice of Basil in The Great Mouse Detective, which is one of my favorite Disney cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
And he was in an episode of The Avengers, the 1960s comedy, not the Disney movie.
Yes. Say it's fully a comedy might be a little bit of a misnomer, but yes.
I can
spy
see
stuff.
It's a spy comedy. It's like it's a 60s spy comedy. It's making fun of the 60s era spy genre.
Oh, true.
It is a spy comedy satire.
Yes. Satire, I'd say, is maybe more on the nose, but yes.
Like, don't mess with me. I had 4 Appeal season of this on DVD.
Very well. I'll bow to your expertise.
I went back and watched this episode because it was what I remembered. So it was also on Murder, She Wrote and Matlock for a bit.
The usual fare. Especially when actors come to America and they're character actors. So now I would also point out that Doctor Who and the Daleks is not actually an episode or adventure of Doctor Who. It's a standalone movie starring Peter Cushing that is sort of an adaptation of a Doctor Who adventure, but with different characters, sort of. Yeah.
Well, that's fun. Because Doctor Who can't be normal for 10 minutes.
Nope. So it's not canonical with normal Doctor Who. So for whatever canon counts there.
I'm not complaining. I'm just waiting for the new gay season to start.
Excellent.
And next we've got Rosalind Lander playing Brenda Odell. She has been in a variety of TV and film character roles. She's been acting since the age of 9, starting in the horror film The Devil Rides Out.
Dang it, Devil. You left to go get a pack of cigarettes, and then you never returned.
This was one of her earlier, American, main roles in mainstream TV. She was later on Matlock and something called Hunter, as well as doing a bunch of voice acting for Disney.
Yeah, on Tasmania and The Incredibles and Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, this is some stuff. She's around.
Yeah. Yes, I'd also like to point out Hammer House of Horror. She was in one episode. And Hammer Horror is like a whole thing, yes.
Yeah, it's I've heard. I don't know the whole history, but yeah, it's a whole bloody thing.
Z-Cars. Remember
Z-Cars.
Z-Cars?
That sounds familiar, but no.
Used to come up a lot in TOS.
Okay. Also, is that show British, or did you suddenly become Canadian?
Well, I've heard the pronunciation of it is supposed to be Z at one point, so I'm just going to make use of.
Okay. And finally, for our purposes, even though there's a lot more people in these episodes, John DeVeers is playing Wilson/Victor Granger. It's like twins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
basically.
it's a little more complicated than that.
For now, it's twins, to avoid spoilers. As far as you're concerned, they're twins.
Maybe they're actually time-displaced transporter clones. There we go.
He's been in a lot of TV shows and movies, such as Miami Vice, The Equalizer, The First Deadly Sin, and City of Hope, among many, many other things. It's hard to list people once we get people who were successful, because it's just pages and pages and pages of shit.
In the Heat of the Night, Me and Veronica, Now and Again.
Yeah, I've heard of none of those. Okay, we get to go into comedy, sort of, until it's dark, and then it's comedic again.
Yes, because that's how we roll sometimes, I guess.
So, Worf's not looking so hot, but never mind. Never mind that. He's just there. Picard has something Riker needs to hear. He plays an old repeating pattern that Riker immediately IDs as an SOS, a very old one used sometime in the early 2100s.
So the 2100s, so post-warp, but warp 1 and 2 sort of era. They might have had some connection with Zephyr Cochrane. Wait, are we going to find out whatever happened to him?
Maybe. I mean, TOS already knows what happened to him.
Shh.
They accidentally kidnapped his grandfather or something, However, this sector of space has no recorded human colonies, because that's the kind of era we're in, where we have lost human civilizations out in the ether somewhere. This is something that Star Trek hardline stopped doing, and I kind of regret it, because it means that there is literally no history between, the early 2000s and the 2400s.
Yes.
that entire 400 years of history is gone. Nothing happened.
Well, that just means they can mine it for, time travel episodes and a continuation of Enterprise someday.
Yeah, they used to do stuff like this. They used to have the weird early Romulan war that makes no sense because we didn't even have sensors on our rocket ships or whatever Flash Gordon bullshit we were doing back then. And this early Earth colonizing period where the colony ships were going out, but no one was even keeping track of where they went and no one cared.
Yep. Which, when we do get to Enterprise, that kind of fits with the vibe they kind of went with for some things there, but not others. But anyway.
So they come back to the bridge after listening to this thing, and they find Worf passed out on the floor.
Not again. Did he get shocked by blue lightning, or is this something new?
Well, apparently, when he gets taken into Pulaski for diagnosis, he has Rapcanor, which is a early childhood illness, kind of like Klingon measles.
Well then, I guess it's good that he has a doctor who knows what it is, I guess. Yeah. So what's the point?
She tells the captain that he was just fasting for religious reasons in order to spare him the embarrassment of having chickenpox.
Wait a moment. Worf, you're really upset about people finding out about this when you're surrounded by mostly humans who have no idea what that is and probably wouldn't care.
Yeah. Not only would humans probably have no idea what this is, I'm sure if this being a Klingon, like minor Klingon illness, if it was capable of crossing over into humans, it would kill them immediately.
Yes. Thankfully, Klingons have pink blood, except all the other times they don't. So, different biology, I guess.
So with that, Data heads to the ready room. He has a way to find the lost ship, because around the time of early Earth history, records were sort of spotty at best. There was a war on and all that.
Yes. They all got lost in the war.
But someone must have loaded supplies onto the ship, so they found a shipping manifest.
Huh.
They find a ship that was loaded with a wide array of computer and scientific equipment, but also some cows, chickens, and spinning wheels.
So I guess we're doing like a Baku sort of thing, where everything looks like it's super low tech on the surface, but we're secretly going to have a computer running our civilization under the hood.
Yeah, and it's going to have an evil computer down there doing something.
Too bad Kirk is long gone, because otherwise we'd call him up to talk it to death.
So Worf shows up in sickbay again. He is here to thank Pulaski for her kindness to his honor, etc., with the Klingon tea ceremony. She knows what to do because she somehow knows Klingon rituals. And she arranges some flowers and stones in cups. Worf tells her that humans can't drink the tea, because it's poisonous. But she gets an antidote so she can drink it, and that's it. Their arc is over, and we don't have to worry about them anymore.
Well, I guess this might be a part of a theme, because Pulaski then asks Worf to quote her some love poetry. And as we've already established, that's part of the mating rituals for Klingons. So obviously they hooked up.
Yeah, well, we didn't see her throw anything.
Oh, sure. But that they cut before that part because it's too hot for TV.
So they arrive at the SOS, which is a system that's erupting in solar flares that are threatening the inhabited planet.
Solar flares? Captain, do you know what that means?
That the radios aren't working and we're going to get a lot of static on TV?
Yeah, which, given what we find out about this colony, makes no sense. But anyway.
Why? Because they're sending out a radio signal with an SOS on it?
Well, there's that, but also they don't really seem like the folks to care about their radio signals.
But, the solar flares are so big they're going to, threaten the planet somehow.
Oh, then the planet's ionosphere, I guess, is going to stop it, because that's what ionospheres get generated and tend to do.
Yeah, it's probably more like a coronal mass ejection, more so than a solar flare. But
even so, but if it's really going to be a danger to the planet, it's either going to be a massive solar flare, aka this is more of the sun is partially exploding, or it's going to be a thing where your planet doesn't have a magnetosphere to protect it. So.
Damn, I knew we should have found a planet with an ionosphere.
No, the ionosphere gets generated by the solar radiation. The magnetosphere, you need a big iron core for that.
Well, see, they just were too worried about their spinning wheels.
Oh, yes, and so they didn't have the forethought to scan for iron.
So,
anyway.
Troy points out that suddenly beaming down to an isolated colony without warning could be a problem. So Riker beams down to the coordinates to just talk to people, I guess, to begin to coordinate the evacuation. So it's only one dude to talk to them, I guess. Yeah. Seems like it's a similar problem, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's these might be unsophisticated people. Riker, you can talk to people. Wait, that's what you did the previous episode at. Never mind.
So Riker says they only need to evacuate about 200 people, which what happened? How did you maintain any human population for almost 400 years when you've wound up with a population of 200 at the end of it?
Well, maybe they recently had a plague.
Yeah, these guys not having a weird population bottleneck doesn't make any sense. Later we have some other stuff that makes a little more sense, but these guys with this they had a mass tragedy that we never hear about.
Yes. It's like, oh, yes, everyone just started dying about 100 years ago, and we were down to like 15 people, and then, well, we're up to 200 again. Hooray!
Yeah, this giant said something about the eugenics wars just showed up. Suddenly there was a plague. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, there's something about plant people, but then he left, and kind of good with that because he kept wearing these short skirt things. It was getting really awkward since he's a giant. And,
Yeah.
he's going like full kilt.
And we don't truck with kilts, being Irish.
Yes.
So they're having
That's
some
totally
arguments about the evacuation. Picard tells them to just work it out later because they need to leave. So O'Brien beams up the first group, complete with hay and livestock.
Well then, so wait, why the hay?
Yeah, that one. Sometimes they beam up stuff that's on the ground, and sometimes they don't.
I guess they couldn't lock on to the individual life forms and just like, just beam up everything in this general vicinity. Just make sure we get the people entirely, and we'll be fine. I guess.
So Picard comes to see this literal menagerie he's got on his ship now, and the leader of the colonists, Danny, explains that they need their animals. They can't just leave them there to die in the solar flares.
Mm-hmm.
So they get them all transmitted directly to a cargo bay. Also, he tries to interest Picard in marrying his daughter.
Well, it's a little soon for anything like that. Also, Picard's kind of busy running the ship right now, so maybe we'll talk
Also,
later.
of course, our introduction is when they see O'Brien and go, I knew an Irishman would be in charge.
And Cole Meany's like, this sucks.
So they complete the evacuation, but things aren't settled because there's like a fire in the cargo bay. They arrive to find that someone started a cooking fire, and they're met by Danny's daughter, Brenda. Riker is very taken.
Yeah, well, she is, quite attractive, has a fiery, vibe to her, and glorious red hair, almost as glorious as mine.
He decides that he's going to hang around and help, by which he means stare.
Yep.
Yeah. So the whole thing is they tried to start a fire. The ship created a force field to put the fire out, and they're all mad about it because the ship started shooting lightning at them.
Yeah, it's just a force field, guys. It's like you guys haven't, experienced a force field before. Wait a moment.
Yeah. They don't have there wasn't a good way to work it in. But they're like, oh, well, it puts out the fire. Like, what if someone were caught in it? It's like you would be standing in the fire.
Yes. And, you'd both be on fire for a little while, and then you would suffocate because the oxygen would run out.
So, after Riker's been staring for a bit, Brenda asks if he knows where she can wash her feet, by which she means let's go to your quarters and fuck.
Yes.
So they do that. And Danny asks Picard if they've heard anything about the other colony.
What other colony?
Yeah.
Nobody's told me about a second colony.
There's also a fun bit where Worf gives all of them some Klingon whiskey. It doesn't further the plot at all, but it's funny.
Yes. And it's probably good that Worf's feeling better, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to do this.
Yeah.
And that's why the earlier parts were important to the plot. There we go.
So now that they know there was another colony, they were able to find a nearby habitable planet. And when they arrive, the colony is surprised because they've been out of touch for so long that they assumed Earth had just sort of, destroyed itself at some point.
Yeah, those Vulcans came by and just were so tired of our crap that they just murdered everyone. That was bound to happen at some point, right?
So we saw a giant sphere fly by in your general direction, I don't know, a couple hundred years ago.
And it seemed pretty nasty and like Death Star laser beam stuff going on, so we just kind of assumed.
That was such a stupid plot line. Anyway. They also need to talk about something important, so everyone should beam down. This is where all the computers and stuff went.
Well, I guess we got a technological colony, a place of contrast compared to the farming colony.
Yeah, we had one colony that decided to be egalitarians and give up technology, and one colony that embraced technology.
Yes, I guess this is one of the earlier examples of the let's all go back to primitive ways, because in Star Trek we don't like technology sometimes. Sort of like This Way to Eden, but more hardcore.
Yeah, there's always like some sort of little. There's always going to be some sort of little fringy religious group going, I want to stop using technology.
Well, more power to you. Bye.
But like a few years on, this is a few generations on, and no one gives a damn. Like, yeah, spaceship, cool.
Yeah. I guess we've heard of these things. No one in our current generation has seen them or know what they're really about, other than, it's what brought us here. So
well, it's kind of interesting. They maintained enough of their historical teachings to like know what most of this technology is, even if they don't understand how it works. They're not suddenly like, oh my God, aliens. But they didn't maintain and we don't like technology. We're egalitarian. we go off and farm. That's because technology is bad.
Well, maybe at some point, like a generation or two on, they just kind of decided, wow, being, farmers like this with kind of terrible tools, it kind of sucks.
Sometime around the second plague, they had I wish we'd kept some of that medicine around.
Yeah, because, the colony just keeps, just dying out randomly. So, be nice not to be, but playing, the lottery with our lives every few decades here. So, yeah.
So Granger welcomes them to Mariposa, the technologically advanced colony. He'll take them to see a guy who looks just like him. Also, there's a lot of twins hanging around.
Yes, or triplets, or quadruplets.
So when they get to see the Prime Minister, Pulaski just flat out asks how their entire population is cloned.
Oh, well, we got machines and computers and medical stuff, so, we just do it.
Turns out their ship had a disaster when they were landing, so they only had 5 survivors, like 3 men and 2 women, which was not enough for a healthy breeding population.
Yeah, you can sort of make some allowances if you everyone has some number of kids with each pairing here. That's possible, but that still leaves some genetic bottlenecks you need to worry about.
Yeah, you're gonna have a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Though I guess it does beg the question that, all right, so you guys crash landed on this planet and then proceeded not to have any kids before going the full cloning route.
Yeah. Well, maybe they didn't like each other. There were only 2 women left, and they were the really annoying ones.
This one, watches too much reality TV and likes to talk our ears off about it.
And the 3 men were not taking care of themselves.
And the guy's like, I'm going to eat my toenail clippings to get rid of them because that makes sense.
Because otherwise someone will use them to clone me.
Yes.
You can't leave them lying around,
And the other guy was like, your body odor is a way of life, man. Unless I'm, using my future version of Axe body spray or something, I guess.
So they used all the science and stuff they brought with them to start cloning people so they wouldn't have this giant population bottleneck. Of course, this wouldn't fix your population bottleneck, so they, wouldn't have kids then because it would still be the same pool of genetics, just more of you. Yes.
Now, this story doesn't really make sense to me because it does seem like they got prepared for this possibility, No,
they just had general science. Don't you just bring general science stuff with you that you can set up to do whichever kind of science?
Yeah, this is Star Trek. They could do that, I guess.
Yeah. So Pulaski wants to know how they fixed replicative fading. They didn't. That is, when you make a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, it degrades.
Well, maybe you guys should have, maintained some cell cultures of the originals then.
Yeah, given how few cells they need, you could have just kept the original DNA. That should have kept you for a while.
Or with all your crazy science machinery, you forgot to have a fridge.
Yeah. So now they've got a big problem. They need fresh DNA. Everyone on the ship is completely against being cloned.
And we get that because there's only basically Riker saying, I don't like this. And that's representing everyone. Yeah.
It's like 1 Riker is unique. 2 Rikers, don't ask me about that. We're not going to deal with it later. Yes. Granger's disappointed, but asks if they can at least help them repair their equipment while they're here. Pulaski, Riker, and Geordi head down where Pulaski and Riker are knocked out and harvested. Geordi's just lied to. They don't want him because, they're also ableists.
Dang it, guys. You guys were doing the kind of cool, we're all just a big happy family of clones, but then you had to be ableist.
See, this is how you know that it's okay that we don't like them. We don't have to engage with their plight or way of thinking because they don't want to clone the blind black guy. which means that they're basically Nazis, and anything we do is fine.
Yes.
Geordi later asks the two where they were, and that's when they realize they have a gap in their memory. You see, this seems like a bad plan.
Now, maybe we should have sent down a security detail. Just they can't tell the difference between yellow shirts for engineering, yellow shirts for security.
Yeah. Also, Geordi can tell when people are lying, because it changes their skin conductivity and heart rate, etc. So he's got that superpower that Daredevil has.
Well, I guess this will be coming up plenty of times in the future, especially when they're playing poker.
Yeah. I know. Wouldn't that be? Also, at some point, somebody mentions that he can see through the cards, which is probably true.
Yes. Just, I'm going to ignore all this information which is coming in for me and play fair.
So they go back to the planet. There they find half-completed clones. They vaporize them immediately. Granger's a bit angry. Riker thinks it's bodily autonomy, dude. Well, yeah, sort of, maybe. Got some problems here.
I think Odo would have some things to say about this because, in an early episode of DS9, he explicitly says, killing your own clone is still murder.
Pulaski thinks it's all moot anyway, because even with more DNA and 15 or so generations, they'll be right back where they started.
Only Pulaski and Riker as the continuation of their civilization.
So, of course, she has an idea. They should bring the colonies back together. They can start again. They can get together and just, start fucking.
Yeah, because the civilization that has made it a point not to have kids because they're all clones and, they run into, problems in the long run there. They're totally going to be down for, normal biological sex.
Also, Granger's being a bit of a dick about it. He's like, you want us, the superior technological people, to be around them, the smelly Irish?
Well, we already know he's a bad guy, but, this is getting a bit much here at this point.
But he's forced to agree out of desperation. Also, they announced that monogamy will no longer be possible because there's just too few people, which again begs the question, what happened to the rest of the other colony?
Yeah.
And then they go, oh no, not polygamy. I certainly couldn't have 6 wives.
And this is going to be we're going to be like those Denobulans folks, where everyone has 3 to 17,000 mates, and then it's just sort of like a big network.
I mean, given the reactions that they all have, it makes me think monogamy may not have been what they were doing to begin with.
True. It's like, oh, this sounds cool.
No one's like, oh, well, what did this? They're like, yes, multiple partners, you say.
There's just so much we don't know about these cultures that, we can sort of fill in the lines as we go.
They tell Brenda that she needs to go lead and be a strong leader for everybody, and she just immediately runs off and starts picking out husbands.
All right. So you're saying that there's 3 guy clones, so do I pick one of each, or, if I have a favorite?
Say, that guy's the head of the colony, do you? Yeah, do I pick one of each guy, or do I get a little freaky with it?
Yeah. It gets back to that, if you and a duplicate of yourself got together, ...
I mean, if you didn't spread the clones around, you'd wind up with the same genetic diversity problem that you were trying to avoid in the first place, though.
Yes. So, you have certain, I guess, rules or something like this, and, just kind of make it work out. But, it's also, some questions about diversity of age groups and things like that. Are you going to be matched with, someone of your appropriate age here? Or is it just going to be whoever's available?
How do you count that for the clones, since they obviously are doing adult cloning?
Yes. This person could be 3 years old, and you're like, this person looks like an adult, and it'll be really awkward because they're like, I'm still learning to read. And you're like, what the hell? No, this is not acceptable, guys. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of awkwardness, assuming this plan works out. But you know what I think is going to happen? I think the Mariposa colony clones are going to be all like, all right, so the starship's left. Everyone go take a nap. We're going to be doing some medical scans on you. And, oh, hey, we got a whole bunch of new clones. That's cool.
Yeah. Now we don't have to deal with all of your animals.
Yes, and you guys could go live on that continent while we, just keep doing what we've been doing already.
Oh, the little like production notes on this are very weird because apparently the original intention of this episode was that it would be a commentary on immigration.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, new groups moving in, can revitalize an area that's stagnating, and so it's healthy for the community. But given how much else we got attached to this, that message is completely lost.
It's not even there.
It's like you need to be careful about building your narratives to not let the point drift away from you to be lost amongst everything else you're including.
Yeah, you've got about one line where Cloney McCloneface goes, "Oh, them," and they go like, "It's that or die." He's like, "Oh, we'll find them."
And that's the extent of our intended message.
Yeah, that's it. That's the entire thing. Also, the Irish is a little bit odd. Mm-hmm. Like, why are they so heavily coded Irish?
Well, I guess if all the people that got on the ship originally were Irish, I guess, which, given that, this is a starship from the planet Earth is, not necessarily a thing, given the future.
Well, it's definitely like it works with the, like, immigrant narrative, sort of, but like anti-Irish sentiment in America was pretty well undone by the late 1980s.
Yeah, it's gone from the oh yeah, that used to be a thing to, I guess, oh, it used to be a thing and thus we can make fun of it because no one actually goes with it anymore.
Yeah, but it's also very American centered and a little bit tone deaf because this was released in 1989, which is 10 years before the Good Friday Agreement brought an end to the Irish separatist hostility. Like, the Irish Civil War was still in its weird little we're all doing terrorism to each other state.
Ireland, the country was, well independent, but Northern Ireland was, still in a bit of a troubled state, you could say.
Yeah, Northern Ireland, the North-South Irish divide was only, like, codified in, like, around the 1920s. So, within, like, living memory for people at this point.
Yes.
And it's a bit weird to be doing this like weird Irish stereotyping. Yeah, you aren't mentioning anything. Like, these people might have come from Ireland, and like you don't have any mention of this stuff. And given how much Star Trek thinks the Cold War would still be going on in 400 years, it's interesting that there's nothing about it at all.
Well, I guess there's a certain level of Americans not knowing things outside of America going on here too. It's like, yeah, if you're in the UK, like some of our actors are from, you'd might have some thoughts on that, and but you're not writing the script. Linda Snodgrass is, so you're the guest star, so you don't get a whole lot of input there.
You can't even have one line of like after the Irish reunification of 2150. Yeah.
No, it's 2024. We find that in a later episode. Yeah. So should we talk a little bit about Ireland in general, or should we focus on the cloning here at this point?
Well, we've got to get both at some point. I think it's an odd one because the anti-Irish stereotyping is very much a anti-Irish and American sentiment, which was very popular in the like early 1900s into the 1940s. And before then too. Yeah.
The big Irish immigration wave, the 1840s and 50s there, do that whole, potato famine sort of stuff going on.
Oh yeah, the Irish one goes back really far. That's true.
And so you get to say, it's like, oh, there's a bunch of new people who showed up our community, and because they've not fully integrated and become accepted by us already, that means that we can't trust them, and we must stand opposed to them, and they're taking over our city and their foreign ways, and thus we have to have stereotypes so we can.
Because like Scotland and Ireland were two of the first places that the British took over really early on in their colonial history. Like, it's very easy for us to think of them all as the same place now. Then
There's different accents, different cultures. Ireland is the one with the leprechauns, and Scotland's the one with all the kilts and bagpipes. And
yeah.
and that's how you know that they're different, due to these specific stereotype items.
And even the big
else.
waves of Irish immigration coming in from the poverty and famine was like essentially orchestrated by the British.
Yep.
to like they had relief. There was a potato blight, but the English would have been able to give them food relief. They just chose not to.
Yes.
In a particularly racist and thought out way.
Yes. We could have lots of alternative foodstuffs sent there to cover the debt in the potato production there, while we stop trying to extract all the potatoes that aren't blighted in the meantime, so that they could eat. That would be good, right? Oh, we're not really going to do that, other than some like half-assed sort of measures there.
And you can see the seeds of an idea in this, that you are using Irish people coded to be of the sort of mid to late 1800s era, when that wave of Irish immigration would have been happening in the US. And you have the white cloning race, who like is, if you're going to go with like national purity, I guess you can't get a much better metaphor than people who literally clone themselves.
Yes. It's like, there is only one, set of us, and thus that will be how it is forever, because we are already perfect. Go away.
Yeah. But you needed more, I don't know, anything. Literally anything other than all of the Irish people being a stereotype comic relief. Even this, I didn't realize, like, Up the Long Ladder is apparently not a DNA reference.
Yes,
it is double.
It might double, but up the long ladder and down the short rope. It's all about being hanged, apparently.
Yes.
So which one of us is being hanged here, Gabwin?
But a specifically anti-Protestant rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the entire thing that sparked the, Irish Civil War.
So, should we do a quick history of Ireland?
Yeah, we can do quick rundown.
Once upon a time, there was a land called Ireland. And Ireland eventually got conquered by some British folks. And then they're like, we don't really like being conquered by you. Also, you guys are like becoming Protestant, and we kind of like being Catholic here. So we're going to be like really upset about this like all the time for now. So please leave us. And yeah. And then Britain's like, no, you're still under our thumb. You're basically our farming colony next door. So, deal with it. And we're going to have, different kings. We're going to have our own little glorious revolution. We're going to have all sorts of other things going on here. And, you're going to occasionally have some uprisings. But eventually, around that whole World War I thing, we'll finally let you go. And become independent, and Ireland's like, hooray! Wait, why'd you take that big chunk out of our northern bit there? Come on, guys. And so, Ireland proper was, became independent, but Northern Ireland was still part of the UK, and still is. Because that's where there are a lot of the Protestant colonizers from England had set up shop, and so they're like, well, yeah, we're going to keep this because that's where all our people are, and they're like, well, there's also a lot of Irish people there. In fact, there's a lot of people there that have kind of become Irish because they've been there for so many generations, thanks to you guys. So what's the deal? And so there's a bit of things called the Troubles, where there's a lot of violence between Protestants and Catholics in Northern Ireland. And eventually that did get settled down a bit with the Good Friday Agreement, which again took place after this. And sort of leaving us with the current status quo, though, recent history of the British government does put some of the agreement into question, so, yeah.
Well, now they have an actual, like, overland border with Brexit.
Yes. So Ireland's like, yeah, the EU's cool, What's going on over there, UK?
Ireland and Scotland are getting continuously fed up with everything the UK is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, separatism might be on the table again.
Yes. So, things could fall apart there, but you never know. Before the British took over, there was, petty kingdoms and cool stuff like that. And, a lot of interesting culture and sort of Celtic background because the Romans didn't actually get around to conquering it. And so, some cool stuff going on there. And then the English took over and we're going to anglicize you guys. And oh, man.
Yeah, the Romans barely got into Ireland.
Mm-hmm. It's it's just like more England, but different.
Well, they hit Scotland and then we're like, no, I'm not dealing with these people.
Yeah, they scream a lot and like to hit us really hard.
All right, now we got to talk about cloning and how they got bodily autonomy wrong.
Yes, so what is bodily autonomy, Gepwin?
Bodily autonomy generally, I'd have to look up a legal definition. But you're generally dealing with the idea that what happens to your own body is your decision.
Mm-hmm. So I guess in the case of this particular episode, the being knocked out and your cells harvested, that would be a bodily autonomy, portion of it. Yes.
See, they are partially correct, but they're getting the general argument that they're doing overall incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, no, I do not want to give you any of my DNA to be cloned is a very clear indication of your own bodily autonomy. I do not consent to you doing this.
So, the sort of threat hung over the cloners, near the end of the episode of, we, because you violated our crew, we can, make use of that as a good reason to go and search all your equipment and look for any more cell samples you might have of them. Because, that's effectively stolen property.
Yeah.
It's you stole some of them. Stop that.
Yeah, even that. If someone takes your DNA without your permission and then wants to use it for something, you should have the right to get them to stop. Destroy the DNA. The part where they run into a problem is when they go, it is my execution of bodily autonomy to destroy this clone being.
That's a little more murky because, if this being is now, an independent being that isn't you, it now has its own bodily autonomy not to get shot.
Yeah. The creation process was a violation of your bodily autonomy. Once the thing exists as its own entity, it's no longer violating your own bodily autonomy.
Indeed.
So you don't actually have the right to destroy it. This is actually the thing that a lot of the abortion arguments get kind of mixed up with. Mm-hmm. In this case, the cloning process is happening completely independently of the individuals involved.
Indeed.
So this clone is going to maturate and mature and whatever without any additional input information fucking with whatever from Riker. It's just going to happen regardless of what he does.
Yes, and effectively he's going to have no lingering responsibilities for it once it's done being constructed.
Yeah. So, he doesn't have anything to do with this. It's not going to affect him in any particular way other than the mental idea that it exists.
Yes.
The thing that people get wrong with the bodily autonomy argument as far as your abortion things go, which this is kind of a very clear parallel, is the maturation of a baby inside of a human body is a continual test of your own bodily autonomy because something is happening to your body. Mm-hmm. And whether or not it involves another organism, it's still something that is happening to your body that you should have a right to control.
You are effectively having someone be renting out a part of your person there, and if you don't want to be letting them do that, then, well, too bad.
Yeah.
And there's also, the whole fact that, this is actually just a clump of cells at this point.
But that's the part that doesn't really matter because we get all mixed up in when is it a viable, real human organism that we care about. Yeah. But we don't think that way about anything else. If we thought that you needed to violate your own bodily autonomy to keep other people alive, then organ donation would be mandatory.
Indeed.
It would be wrong to not donate part of your liver to someone, because that's not going to kill you. You can donate as much of your liver to people as you want. So liver donation should be mandatory.
Yes, so, someone, has your blood type, so come in and get tested. Oh, it looks like you're a match, so we're going to cut you open and take out a big slab and have a nice day.
Yeah, and you can even get into more things, like, we don't care how much it hurts someone to go through this process, so, like, you can live with only one kidney, so, you should probably have to give one of those up, too. Depending on how much money you have, you probably should give up the other one, because we seem to not think that someone dying from things is a legitimate reason to stop.
And your work is either, quote, non-essential or, doesn't require you to have, depth perception. So we're going to have you give up one of your corneas. So, get an eye patch.
Yeah, how many corneas do you need to stare at a computer and fill out reports all day anyway?
Indeed. Oh, hey, you got some, teeth in there. Someone, has a lot fewer teeth than you, so maybe it's time to donate a few so they can have some realistic dentures.
And the reason that those all sound like absurd arguments is because we're not framing the other argument correctly, because it also sounds like an absurd argument. But in this case, we're getting into a weird thing, because we're very obviously supposed to think that Riker and the others are completely in the right, because they were cloned without permission, and the without permission part is completely and utterly wrong. But destroying the individual that was created through that process, who actually had no say in the matter, no consent, they did nothing. They didn't even exist at the time.
Yes.
It's like, that becomes a problem.
Yes. This is trying to build elements for a particular narrative, and is not being careful, and so all sorts of unintended consequences are now being provided that are suggesting certain things are true when they're actually not. Yeah. So this episode's kind of annoying,
Yeah. We're supposed to default to the idea because we're supposed to be sort of skeeved out by it, which is a bad way to make these arguments.
Yes, skeeving vibes is not enough, guys. Potato famine. Sorry, I still have an article open for that.
They fixed part of the famines with sort of cloning. That's how they spread sweet potatoes everywhere.
Sweet potatoes. Sweet. Oh, I actually have a friend who's taken to growing some potatoes recently. He has an apartment, in a building, several story tall situation, but enough of a patio balcony area to have a little potato farm up there. That's kind of cool.
Well, that's nice.
He recently actually harvested some, and he's like, yeah, I also want to actually have the flowers of the potato plant do their thing a bit to help increase my potato genetic diversity, so it can avoid blight sort of problems down the road by having a more diverse set of genomes in it. Wait, this is already starting to sound again like something about the episode.
Yeah,
weird.
Well, it's the same problem, really. The cloning isn't a thing in this kind of iteration that we're doing in this episode. We're not cloning people and animals all over the shop. But we are creating non-genetically diverse plant ecosystems for our food, and it is a massive problem.
Yes.
Because a lot of our food is, in fact, cloned. It's just way, way easier to clone, propagate plants. It's something that we've been doing for years.
Yeah, it's how do we get seedless grapes exactly if they have no seeds?
Yeah.
Well.
So you do this clone propagation of a plant. You wind up with a massive number of food crops that are not genetically diverse, even a tiny bit. And you also put them in these weird monoculture environments that nothing lives well in. And then the minute anything goes wrong, the whole thing collapses in on itself.
Yes. And then Monsanto's like, well, you shouldn't have bought from us. Too bad. Also, you can only buy from us. This contract.
A lot of people know this one already, but why banana-flavored candy tastes nothing like bananas, right?
No, actually.
All right, so that actually used to be what bananas tasted like. It was another species of banana that was an incredibly popular fruit, and that was your default banana for a very long time. That got infected by, I believe, a fungus that spread through that population because it was all grown in monocultures. It went almost completely extinct. It is basically impossible to cultivate now. There are some places where you can still get it. They didn't go completely extinct, but as a cultivated food crop, it's essentially gone. And they got replaced with what we now think of as bananas, which are a completely different species of banana.
So, one banana, two banana, your banana, gone banana. No, I don't know where I was going with that.
Which is an interesting one, because now we are... A lot of places that are doing more sustainable style farming are introducing a mix of things, because for lots of human history, people did not use monoculture farming. The only reason to do monoculture farming is because it makes some of our current industrialized processes slightly easier to pull off.
Yeah, it's like, we just drive the machine through this field here, and since this is the machine that picks corn, it picks all the corn, and everything else is just run over.
But not only does it create a much healthier ecosystem and better plants, it's also way less work overall to do non-monoculture farming, because most of the plants interact in ways that help take care of themselves. And you get animals in there that weeds, etc.
Yes.
Take care of some of your pest problems.
I mean, we won't have to spray as much chemicals on our crops that way?
Yeah, if you have your chickens running around your fields eating all the snails.
Well then.
Sheep's eating weeds.
So yes, that might be a good thing, So having a smarter way to farm is generally a good thing.
You could have had that too, because now they had this perfect thing mixed in, where you're introducing a farming society into this technologically advanced society. They have no idea how they're going to mix. They could even do that. So if you had everyone pair up and then have kids and then clone every single kid and then be careful with how you're pairing up people, you could wind up with a population of 2,000 pretty easily.
Yeah.
In one generation. And as long as you were a teeny bit careful who paired up with who, you wouldn't have to worry too much about your genetic diversity anymore.
Indeed. Have a do not hook up with list, and then, everyone else fine,
Yeah.
And basically, I think they got something like that going on in Iceland because, it's 100,000 people, semi-isolated area of the world,
Now, what they really need to start doing is cloning some of those cows and sheep and chickens, because I only saw 6 of them.
Yes. It's we don't necessarily care if our cows, get a bit funky, and as long as they're alive, right? Because we're just going to be eating them, right? Hopefully this doesn't cause any weird genetic defects that become poisonous for us.
I think overall this just really demonstrates you should think out your comedy episodes a little bit more, because if you don't, you wind up commenting negatively on you're being weirdly old school racist. The stereotyping is definitely undermining your immigration message. And you've said some weird backward things about bodily autonomy.
Yes. And unfortunately, Star Trek's going to keep being a bit ham-fisted on this particular fun, because all you need is absurdity, right? And then that's funny, right?
Yeah. You don't have to think about it.
That's not how it works at all. By the way, a slight note. This episode was the final episode to air before the release of Star Trek V.
Oh, that is kind of interesting. Yeah, I wasn't paying too attention to the timeline there, because we went out of chronological order.
But, it's if you're a fan of Star Trek, it might have seemed pretty bleak around this point.
Gee, that episode wasn't very interesting. At least there's a new movie.
Oh, well, there were some interesting things in there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, one thing that this episode definitely does have is no cat strippers.
True. Meow.
Anyway, I think we've mined this quite a bit here.
And we've only hit a few landmines along way.
Yeah. Landmines like white supremacy.
One Once again, it crops up.
It does, because people are afraid to examine it.
Yes, it's like diversity. Oh, we can't have that. Other than the minimum way of where we're gonna just pick these two particular people and clone them, but not the guy with the disability. Oh, yeah. I think my reaction to this episode is it kind of sucks.
Yeah, a little bit. I always thought it was kind of funny when I was younger because I didn't know better.
I do appreciate the scenes with Worf, and that's kind of it. I also appreciate when Picard's like, oh, you just got to bow to the absurd. It's like, yeah, Patrick Stewart here is like, yeah, this is really stupid, but okay, I guess we're doing this.
It's also like 3 British actors making fun of the Irish. That's fun.
Mm-hmm. So, it happens, I guess.
Hey, it's probably time for us to move on to the slightly less depressing thing we like to do called the Galaxy's Favorite Game Show.
Woo! Hey everybody, welcome back to the Galaxy's Favorite Game Show. I am not going to try to do an Irish accent because it would be terrible. Anyway, our various contestants have been racking up some points here, and some of them have been trying to duplicate their points, but that's not how this works here, guys. Anywho, it's time to start handing out some prizes. The first one is the Evil Twin Prize, which goes to Riker, not his clone, for being the murder-prone twin in this case, while his clone has basically done nothing to warrant his execution. What does he win, Gepwin?
Riker wins a shaving kit because just because you have a beard doesn't mean you don't also have an evil mustache.
Indeed. So, Riker, you're going to be the evil clone from this point out, just FYI, till, there's reason to doubt that. Anyway, our second one is the Irrational Irish Stereotypes, which is not the first time we've handed out this prize, by the way, which goes to Daniel O'Dell and company for being exactly this. What do they win, Gepwin?
They win the Riverdance DVDs, because, if that had been a thing yet, they totally would have just been, they would have walked into that cargo bay and they would have just been dancing in weird little circles all over the shop.
The not moving your arms sort of dance thing, and tippity tap and this way and that, and that's how we're going to go down the hallway too, because why not? Oh, our final prize we're going to be handing out here, because everything else is basically being disappointing, is the Genre Savvy Prize, which goes to Picard for realizing just how absurd Star Trek can be sometimes. What does he win, Gepwin?
Picard wins more these kinds of quick thinking solutions. He could have taken care of this whole thing if he'd just taken a little more charge and we're just going to take you from this planet to this planet. Everyone shut up. Mm-hmm. We're not going to mess around with this. Riker can have his sex scene so that we can establish him as the Kirk character, and then we're just moving on. Needs a little bit more of his captainingness in this one. Puts up with way too much silliness.
Yes, that way, what happens in the ficus sector stays in the ficus sector. That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that's all I got, Gepwin, because I am tired of counting up these points for this episode, and anything else is just going to be disappointing. Yeah. Feel free to take us away.
So, thank you all for joining us in this travesty of Irish culture we call the Galaxy's Favorite Game Show.
Woo! We didn't even mention the Blarney Stone.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised. It's one of the 2 things people know exist in Ireland.
Yes, and there's some hills and mountains and stuff like that, and a road, and a place called Dublin.
Yeah.
And that's most of what most people tend to know about Ireland. I know a few more things, but I'm not someone who's ever lived there and not really experienced the culture directly, so usually my core experience with the Irish culture is the American bastardization of it, which is annoying.
You can watch that Netflix show. That's good. Yeah, deals with this stuff.
But what do we got coming up next
time? We have an episode that sounds like it would be cool. It sounds like it's trying to be all edgy.
Yes, we got to track down a criminal or something like that, right?
It's called Manhunt. sounds like an 80s action movie. It's like the thing's gonna appear with explosions. It's a manhunt.
Yeah, there's gonna be someone like a Camaro, and they're gonna be like jumping off stuff. But because this is Star Trek, it's gonna be like either on the holodeck or someone's gotten really industrious in one of the cargo bays.
Yeah, just hunting all of the ships.
Hey,
there's a guy like hiding in weird obscure bits of the ship and evading authorities, and you have to decide whether you give him up to the unfair justice system of another world.
But we'll have that kind of episode.
What we got now is Lwaxana Troi is horny.
Yes, but also there's some fish guys. Yeah, and that's kind of most of the episode.
There's some fish dudes. There's Lwaxana Troi. There's some holodeck shenanigans. There's Fleetwood Mac.
Wait, are we gonna have a musical number?
They're there.
Oh, oh, that's still cool, I guess.
The Fleetwood dude, he's in the episode. Just you're never gonna know.
The Mick Fleetwood specifically, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Fleetwood.
I want to be in this episode. Well, can you wear this? Is that a headpiece? Yes.
Have we demonstrated how little I know about Fleetwood Mac yet?
They're a musical group.
Yeah, I know that. I know that bit. They do something with music. I'm seeing a picture of a drum.
Yes. I'll link you to some Rock Band and Guitar Hero tracks.
Oh, those I probably know. Yeah.
Do, 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 do.
I was all over that Rock Band. Was that 3 where you made your own, like, had to fight the devil or something?
Guitar Hero 3. Yeah. Yes, where you fought Lou, who's totally not the devil, even though he is. It's also where you faced off against Slash and Tom Morello.
That was a weird game. It's really too bad that they iterated themselves out of business with that genre.
I still like pulling out the classic guitar sometimes and going a few chords in and then realize, I spent 3 hours doing this.
Yeah, they've got that website now. That one where people make their own Rock Band tracks. I saw somebody talking about that recently.
We could have the official, unofficial Star Trek Watches of Tomorrow extravaganza charts on there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should put up that bad version of Beatles that we did for the one animated series episode.
Roll out for the mystery tour. A little aside here. I've had a couple Beatles songs stuck in my head so much the last couple of days. It's kind of weird. So having that come back suddenly, yeah. But why are you in my brain?
We're not gonna have anything interesting to discuss really in the next one. So
so I should put off the paranoia until then. Got it.
Yeah, Lwaxana's back. She's fun. She's always fun because Michelle Barrett just has a great time coming in and doing whatever the hell she wants in these episodes. But
yes,
as far as meaty substance, her trying to inappropriately go after a bunch of guys is a weird thing to hang an episode on.
Yes, but weirdly related to a recent Lower Decks episode. Anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah, put Lower Decks in it so that someone can SEO us and get mad later. Anyway, yeah.
Yay. Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, time to get super married. You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.